so everyone could see what I planned to talk about. And it was just a biology lesson. It had nothing to do with trans people whatsoever. It was just, why are there only two sexes? Why sex and gender are different things? Why is it important for biology and research in general, especially when it comes to medical science, to distinguish between the two of them? And that I even said that each of this has a place in academia, but you need to separate them and be really, really clear. Yes, then I gave this, I gave my presentation under police protection 2 weeks later, and somehow it escalated. It didn't stop then, it escalated even more. So now I'm the most hated woman on German Twitter. I am involved in 4 to 5 legal proceedings against trans organizations, against my university, and it doesn't seem to stop. Like, this is the longest shitstorm. People who know these things told me that that's the longest shitstorm ever recorded in German Twitter. It's going on since July, and there's always a new wave and a new wave and a new wave. So to understand how it got so far, maybe you need to know 3 things that happened before my talk and 3 things that happened after my talk, to give you some perspective why I am now this person or personification of this conflict between trans activists and feminists, or general people who are pro free speech. So the first thing that happened before my talk, there is an ongoing debate about a self-ID law in Germany. So our government, who consists of people from the Green Party, Social Democrats, and Liberals, want to put self-ID law in place in Germany, which means everyone can just go to an office and say, okay, I now want to be male or female, I want to change it, and they should, there's no examination whatsoever, and they can, you can change your legal gender status once a year. Some of the versions especially targeted minors and said you can do that from if you're 14 years old, and restricted the parents' rights to decide for their children. So me and some feminists, we are really protesting against it and trying to raise awareness, because no one really knows what the government plans, or until recently no one really knew what was going on. That was the one thing that happened before. The second thing that happened before was that I and some other biologists I met online, other researchers, psychiatrists for children with gender dysphoria, we wrote a report, a small study, where we watched German public broadcasting. So this is state funded. It's paid from our taxes, and we wrote this report, and because there were a lot of misinformation spreading to the public through this channels, and one was also about the reality of sex. What is gender, how many sexes are there? Then it was actually advertising self-ID law in children's program, it was a lot of, it had a lot of report about trans, but it also had like implicit sexual, sexual things that were brought to children or young adults on the channels. For instance, they would put an image of a penis and would call it a vulva. So they would put different vulvas next to each other in one of their Instagram channels, and then I just put a dick inside, like things like that. We all criticized it. We wrote this really, really long report, and then we circulated it amongst other academics. So at the end, we had an open letter, we had this report, we had 120 scientists, researchers, doctors, psychologists who signed our open letter that we said, please, the program has to be truthful to these subjects and don't report one-sided on it. We also I co-wrote a newspaper article we wrote it in a German newspaper to advertise this open letter and this report. And this piece was behind a paywall, so not many people read it, but there was the first shitstorm, because everyone was like, this is hostile against trans people, and you're you're right-winged American Christians who want to forbid sexual informations towards children, many things that are not in this newspaper article. And this article came out in June, so that was the second thing that happened. And then I was in the spotlight because my name was on this article and on this report. So before, no one really cared about me. The third thing that happened before is that I have a Twitter account, which I would not have called an activist account. It was just an anonymous Twitter account, not affiliated with my name, not affiliated with the university. I would just use it in the beginning to promote some information about prostitution, have some fun. And then I switched and I tried to also educate some people about biology. But it was most of the time a really small account I have for five years now. And suddenly, a month before my talk was scheduled, a lot of trans rights activists would circulate my name, started to inform the university. I was always harassed by these trans activists online, but it would just completely escalate. There are some queer activists and trans activists, they were obsessed with me. They would tweet like 5-6 times a day about me. They would openly threaten me, even before my talk was cancelled. So these are the 3 things that happened before I was supposed to give my talk, and that all contributed to this really hostile environment. The 3 things that happen afterwards that you might need to understand the situation now is that once my talk was cancelled and then rescheduled, the media would immediately jump on it and make a big case out of it, like of cancel culture. But almost immediately, a lot of media were reporting, were targeting me, and tried to dig up some dirt about me, because they really, really hated the subject of my talk. because they use this confusion about sex and gender to promote their own agenda. So for a week or so, many media try to find a biologist who says that what I explained is wrong, but they couldn't find anyone because what I said was basic biology. But anyway, they try to target my reputation. They try to find mistakes in my talk about sex and gender. And when this not worked, then they would go after me, and together with the people online tried to put me in a right corner. They said, she's a right-winged and she's involved in she's involved in some I don't know organizations or troll things that threaten trans people or want to try to harass trans people to take their own life. So there was not only activists who spread all these rumors about me, also this bigger media would jump on it. And one media, newspaper actually wrote that I am close to the NPD, which is the neo-Nazi party in Germany, and they faked some conversations online, like really badly. They photoshopped my picture in a conversation that a journalist had with the head of the neo-Nazi party. And to claim that I'm right-winged. And I am not right-winged. I've never even talked with anyone who's right-winged. I'm a left-wing woman, but these constant rumors, they just added up, and now many people think that I did something wrong and I'm a right-wing person. So the second thing that happened then was that they took many of my tweets out of context to try to twist it, to show what a horrible person I am. And there was one conversation I had. It was about that I said stop sterilizing children, against puberty blockers. And I said, oh, this is just like the Nazis sterilized trans women. And I said, oh, I never heard about it. Can you give me a link to that? And in this conversation, they just took some of my tweets and said, this is like basically Holocaust denial. So then a site that is called Trans Media Watch, from many queer organizations, who this is an initiative who watches other medias, how they report about trans issues, started spreading a hashtag that trans activists suggested, which was Marie is denying Nazi crimes. And then again, the media picked up on it and said, oh yeah, she's denying Nazi crimes. Some media twisted it. It's like, yeah, she's a Holocaust denier. It was insane. I had to go to court, and gladly there's a first decision now by the judges that they had to delete this. And they looked at the case, they looked at the things that I said, and they were like, yeah, no, this is not, she's not denying Nazi crimes. This is insane, and this is it's really hurtful to her personality and her rights. So gladly, the first decision of the judges, confirmed what I said all the time. But still, it's out there. People spreading it. I have a Wikipedia page. People put it up. A trans activist said that he had or she had to flee with her family because my followers would I don't know, come to her place and smash some windows. Like, these rumors were spread, and it all when this one thing was resolved, when Marie's denying Nazi crimes, and the next thing happened that last weekend there was a pride event, and said really sadly a trans man was killed. But the first thing that happened is that people would say that it's my fault. So they would again use hashtags like Marie murdered too, or it's Marie's fault. So leading feminists, it's the fault of leading feminists, when, I don't know, people from Czechia who are transphobic or hate gays and lesbian punch someone, and which is insane.